Senior Research Fellow at the Center for Islam and Global Affairs at Istanbul Zaim University. He joins me now on TRT World. Thank you very much for joining us here on TRT World. Really appreciate your taking out the time. So I just read to you that hitting places of worship is illegal under international law. Destroying places of worship is a violation of the Geneva Convention. So the fact that Israel has basically disregarded all of the international norms, what do you think it tells us?
Well, it tells us that Israel doesn't care about international law as it hasn't cared about international law for the last 75 years. The reason that Israel doesn't care about international law is simply because there is no tangible mechanism to enforce these laws. This has been repeated in every war against Gaza and all the human rights violations that are happening in the West Bank and East Jerusalem. Americans veto any attempt at enforcing or forcing Israel to comply with international and humanitarian laws. So at the end of the day, sadly, these laws become ink on paper. With no enforcement, Israel can do anything it wants to do to the Palestinians, and they have shown us this repeatedly in the last few days. Amnesty International issued a damning report, they said, today about the Israeli practices in Gaza, saying that it's not only there is complete disregard for civilian lives, but the degree of destruction is beyond appalling, and that this needs to stop immediately.
I think the fact of the matter is that it's not the first time Israel is hitting places of worship. In past conflicts with Hamas, there have been reported instances where Israeli airstrikes have destroyed places of worships and hospitals and schools. But there was no accountability. Investigations were launched, but there was no accountability. Tell me, to what extent do you think the fact that there was no accountability in the past has emboldened current Israeli actions?
Of course, if you do something wrong as an individual, as a collective, as a country, if you do something wrong and nobody is reprimanding you or stopping you somehow, you're going to do it again and again and again because in your mind it's the right thing. So in every Israeli war, Israel immediately targets Palestinian houses of worship, particularly mosques, but they also bomb UN shelters, UN schools, hospitals, and other facilities. It's not the first time. What makes this war different is the scale of the atrocities that Israel is carrying out in Gaza. The fact that they would bomb a Christian hospital, and that's particularly interesting because Israel has always tried to present this so-called conflict as one between Muslims and Jews, which is not true at all. It's between the Israeli war machine and Israeli apartheid against Palestinians of all their ideological, religious, or any other identity background. So the fact that they bombed and killed nearly 500 people in a Christian hospital, and then they bombed a church yesterday, one of the oldest churches in the world and the oldest in Palestine, dating back to the year 400, is just indicative that Israel is absolutely unhinged and nothing is sacred as far as Israel is concerned. So this mechanism would need to change. Israel would have to be held accountable to these crimes in order for it to stop carrying crimes against innocent people, children, mosques, churches, schools, hospitals, and so on.
Certainly, accountability is one major factor here, but another factor that I believe is very important is that there are enablers of Israeli actions in Gaza. World leaders, major world powers, are totally silent about Israel attacking hospitals, Israel attacking places of worship. I wonder, to what extent do you think responsibility can be attributed to major countries like the US, who have, according to experts, enabled Israeli actions in Gaza when it comes to these alleged war
I,
crimes?
I have been reporting on this so called conflict for many years. I was reporting from Gaza when I was 17 or 18 years old. Honestly, I have never in my life seen the Western position on Palestine so biased to the extent that it feels that Gaza is fighting a war, not only against Israel, but against superpowers, Western powers, the United States, Britain, France, Germany, and others. It is nauseating and it is scary. Scary to think that all of these powers are now bringing all of their military influence, their strategic influence, their political sway, only to crush a small piece of land that has been under siege for 16 years, where people have already been dying from easily treatable diseases and have been living under this siege, and yet they are all basically a group of bullies. I mean, really, I can't think of a better term to use, to be honest. Just a group of Western bullies, and they are all allying against this little rebellious kid who is simply wants to break free from the Israeli siege. It's unprecedented. The language, the money, the military, the what we are seeing here in the West is something that is unprecedented. Unprecedented. Similarly to the scale of the Israeli destruction in Gaza is unprecedented. So the Muslim, Arab, Middle Eastern, Global South, Russia, China, Turkey, they need to take the strongest possible position because Gaza cannot be left on its own facing this hurricane of Western support to Israel in every possible way.
Fascinating insights into the topic. Ramzy Baroud, thank you very much for talking to us here on TRT World.